Now, I would like to welcome back Shashwat Satpathy back on the stage. Shashwat is the Vice President of Insights, GMR Qualitative Division at Bradscapes Worldwide, who will introduce the next panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ronak. Good afternoon, everyone, and glad to be a part of the seminar. And I think it's been amazing 2 days that we've spent listening to some bright and passionate speakers all through. I can take the liberty on behalf of the jury to pat ourselves that all that we've done and every minute was worth it, right from conceptualizing the theme to spending hours of time to go through each paper. I think last 1.5 days that we've seen people presenting, it has been extremely satisfying and overwhelming to find out that people have actually risen to the occasion as the theme asked them to do. So I think it's therefore an apt closure to have the next panel discussion as the last session of this year's seminar before we announce the winners. We all hear the word metaverse quite often nowadays. And if I tell you today that we are getting some stalwarts who make the meta universe to talk about their perspective on attention, creative, and measurement in the world of AI. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the panelists Ruchi Kohli, Dr. Vikram Bansal, and Saugato Bhowmik from Meta India. Ruchi heads the mid-market business at Meta India with nearly 17 years of experience driving sales, marketing, and strategy at Procter & Gamble and Amazon. Ruchi is a powerhouse in the digital and SMB space. At Meta, she's been pivotal in leading digital transformation for both emerging and established brands. Joining her is Dr. Vikram Bansal, Marketing Science Director, Global Scaling at Meta. With over 30 years of experience in business leadership, strategic planning, and marketing science, Vikram is a true powerhouse in the industry. He leads a dynamic global team and has a remarkable track record in digital advertising, media planning, global team, and analytics. His expertise spans across regional hubs in Singapore, New York, Dublin, and Sao Paulo. Vikram is celebrated for his innovative approach, exceptional client relations, and dedication to excellence. We also have Saugato Bhowmik, Group Director, CPG Auto DTC at Meta India, joining both of them. With a dynamic career spanning up over 20 years, Saugato brings a wealth of experience in sales, marketing, and leadership. He joined the Meta Group in 2022, where he leads the FMCG, automotive, and D2C business for the Global Business Group. The discussion would be around how Meta provides an end-to-end platform for marketing and sales, from discovery to demand fulfillment, the Meta ecosystem, Facebook, Insta, WhatsApp, and I'm sure a lot of you are using it right now as I speak, the art and science of unique marketing effects from Reels, influencers, and more. So it's over to Team Meta, and I'd request our seminar chair, Amitabh Pande, to moderate the session. Thank you so much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My privilege and honor to be moderating the Meta panel of the day. Saugato has been here before. You've already shared a couple of insights in the previous panel. We'll try and cover some new grounds and go deeper into the world of Meta in this session. Firstly, a big thanks for doing this, guys. I know some of you have traveled specifically for this, so a huge thanks, heartfelt. Let's start off with Ruchi. Maybe I'll start with you. The first question, I mean, we have to start with AI, but I promise we're covering other areas apart from AI in this session. But in the world of AI, just talk to us about consumer journeys and how they're changing and what implications they have from a marketing perspective. I mean, you as a platform and as your past experience in CPG has seen both sides, so you can really talk to consumer journeys changing and in the context of AI.
Thank you so much, Amitabh, and thank you for being a wonderful audience. And it's an interesting topic. It's a topic which is at the heart of everything we are doing at Meta right now, so super excited to talk about this. But I think as some of us heard through the sessions today, Saugato also touched upon it, consumer journeys are now becoming fluid. So we are going away from the linear journeys of awareness to consideration to conversion and finally making a purchase to, you know, it being an infinite loop. And consumer journey, consumer is discovering a product, buying a product, considering a product at different places at different points in time. It's not a linear journey anymore. So there could be a potential that I consider a product first, and then somebody in the family considers a product, and then I go and discover it on any of the digital platforms. Somebody could have bought a product, I appreciate it, and then I go back and discover on Instagram or WhatsApp or YouTube, right? So consumer journeys are fluid today. It's not a linear decision making. And I think we are making a lot of progress on AI and leveraging AI on digital platforms. So if you look at our platforms, close to 50% of the content which is being showed to consumers on Instagram is actually AI-led. And we are moving completely away from audience-based marketing to actually outcome-based marketing. And Saugato touched upon this topic in the morning, where we said you just define what the objective of marketing is, what is the outcome you're expecting the brand to deliver, give machine the right creatives, and give it some time. Give it time to learn, and it will deliver. I have a couple of great examples of a lot of traditional brands as well as digital native brands leveraging AI on our platforms to drive business outcomes. I'll talk about one bags brand called Zook. They claim to be the India's largest digital brand on bags, and they're also vegan. The brand leveraged our Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, which is our AI model on catalog-based brands, to drive business outcomes. They saw an 80% reduction in return on ad spend and about 41% improvement in their sales as they leveraged Advantage Plus shopping. All they did was they defined the right purchase objective, they had the right set of creatives, and then they let the machine do the rest, right? At the other end of the spectrum, Domino's leveraged app installs as an objective and leveraged Meta AI solutions to drive their app installs. Again, they had the right set of creatives, gave it the right time, defined the right objective, and we had 7% improvement on app installs and about 3% improvement on their sales just by leveraging the power of AI. So I think AI is, you know, if I have to just sum it up, give it the right time, define the right objective. And I was listening to the panel in the morning where they said, human brain is not replaceable by AI, yes. So you define the objective by leveraging the right outcomes you want for the business, give it the right creative inputs, and give it time. It will deliver outcomes. In fact, there is a lot of advancement happening in the AI space where we have multiple innovations coming our way. We are having AI for creative. So literally the 2 weeks, 3 weeks turnaround time the brands have on creatives could be turned around in 30 to 60 seconds by leveraging AI for creative. Messaging is such a big app, use case in India where more than 700 million users in India are using WhatsApp today. And we are building out technology of AI for creative on WhatsApp. We all talk about open source, AI, Llama, and we are very excited about that. As we speak, Meta is launching a lot of innovations around AI in the Global Connect program, which is happening as we speak. So Llama is also there, and Vikram will talk about how we are leveraging AI for measurement as well. So right from driving upper funnel to shopping outcomes to creative to measurement, I think AI is the next era of how consumers will consume content and how advertisers will drive meaningful outcomes.
Super, thanks a lot for that, Ruchi. And I'll pick up one thing that really struck with me in what you said, which is saying that, I mean, when humans are spending a lot of time on machines and platforms, let the machines do their job and let the humans spend time on asking the right questions, refining the outcomes. So I love that. Let's stop worrying about the audience. Let us focus on the outcomes, let the machine do their job. So I love that thought. You want to touch upon one thing that you were telling me on the side about that, the connection, the infinity loop. Maybe you want to touch upon that. That could be a good framework to think about. We keep talking about omni-channel journeys and fluid journeys. But it's a good framework to kind of maybe get some of the researchers and marketers to think about.
Yeah. So very simply put, right, like all of us in our past eras would have thought of traditional... Yeah. So actually, if you look at this is how we used to think about marketing, right? We would have a linear journey to make consumers discover the brand. to demand fulfillment. And we always thought of this as a linear journey, that at one point in time the consumer will discover a brand, then eventually it will get into consideration, and finally purchase, and post-purchase and loyalty behaviors will follow. But actually, if you see how we are evolving, now it is an infinite loop. And sophisticated marketeers are creating an ecosystem that is actually designed for fluidity, because we don't know when and where a consumer is consuming the content we are sharing. And hence, bringing back the point on let machine decide for that, have the right inputs in terms of outcomes as well as creatives, because you don't know what stage consumer is, where you are driving what outcomes with the consumer.
Okay.
So
At which stage, at what point the consumer is happening, everything's happening simultaneously. Yeah,
multiple platforms, multiple decisions to be made by the consumer. So you don't know what is happening when and where. So let machine do that. You define that I want to improve my brand lift. I want to drive store footfalls. I want to improve my app installs. Have the right set of creatives, and Saugato will touch upon some best practices on creatives, but then let machine do the talking.
May I double click on that for a sec?
Please go ahead, yeah.
30 seconds on it. So look, this is a very sea change from, again, when I used to do classical brand marketing. We would think about, hey, what is prime time? Prime time is very common terminology in a TV first industry. What is the secondary prime time? What is pre-prime time? How do we ensure we deliver in prime time? There is a premium in cost per rating point associated with that prime time. That fixed regime has been disintermediated. Basically, all day is prime time. A person sitting in rural Bihar probably will spend more time sitting on while going to work, going back from work, or at work, for different reasons, cultural reasons, sitting on their screen. The screen is their only entertainment and information outlet. Rural electrification is still poor. Households are still, by and large, single TV households. Only 60% penetration, and after tariff order came in, a lot of households cut their TV connections because they can't afford those expensive bundles. All they have is their mobile. And as a result, a brand like Mamaearth, which is otherwise a very premium beauty, personal care, baby care business, might even find audiences very much sitting in rural Bihar who have the purchasing power, or in rural UP, or in rural Madhya Pradesh, or in some other part of the country. In traditional marketing or traditional media planning, you wouldn't think of it. You would draw up a media plan that said top 20 metros and mini metros deliver there, prime time. So it's a sea change in allowing audiences to be found through the power of AI. And the input you give, like she said, is the right creative in the right language. When, which part of day, what time, let the machine decide. On whether it's a reel, stories, feed ad, WhatsApp message, let the machine decide. Just design for fluidity. Sorry, back to you.
No, super build,
In
Saugato.
fact, just one build to what Saugato said, a lot of digital native brands today are, and we work with a lot of them, right? About 60 to 70% of their spends have moved to A plus SC, A plus AC, which are our AI automated tools, which are all the AI tools we have. And they are seeing improvement in return on ad spend as well as the business outcomes they want to drive. So
makes a lot of sense. Let me pick that last thread, Saugato, that you said, and come to you on the creative. Now, marketers for years, and all of us have prided ourselves in creating beautiful content and creators. Now in the new world, a lot of the content is being created by culture makers, by creators, by influencers, and a lot of it is on your platforms. So in that world, how should marketers think about their creative strategies, not give up control, but shape their creative and their content thinking when they're no longer super in control, is being created outside?
No, thank you. It's a great question. It's part of this profound mindset shift which we want people to understand. So one is what Ruchi spoke about, which is there was a time when we were buying inventory. That was TV time. Then there was a time when we were doing audiences, which is called programmatic. We're in the era of going after outcomes, because now our machines are that strong that you can deliver outcomes, right? And we have those creative formats. So if that's true, and one starts to appreciate the scale of audiences available, the next step is move, because also what's happened is power has gone away even from brands. Why do I say that? There are now, the internet has democratized a plethora of brands. I mean, there are thousands of D2C brands in the country today, building their first seed audiences on digital and then scaling up. And you just saw a Mamaearth going and a Zomato going public. And now they're all offline. And that journey will happen for the next 100 brands very soon, and for the next 1,000 brands right after that. So if that is true, you have to realize the traditional brand model of I am informing, educating, and entertaining you as a brand through my one TVC, one creative, one core thematic campaign, and then I am measuring that through standard measurement models, that has been disintermediated. The power lies in the hands of the consumer, because the consumer is holding the mobile. The consumer is not looking at your appointment time, you know, there is a TV program coming on a broadcast channel and that's when you catch them. No. They'll decide when they want to see you. And as a result, you need to build for multiple voices. Your singular voice will not reach them enough, will not be credible enough. That's what we call the move from a single voice to many voice. Many voices are the voices of the credible, relatable, authentic creators. And our data shows dramatic movements in both brand and performance measures across the world and in India, if creator collaborations are done right. If the voice of the creator is the voice that is used to deliver the message. If somebody is a humorist, a comedian, you cannot tell that person, here is my brand brief, I want my logo to come here and I want you to quote my brand 3 times. No. You will have to cede control, give that freedom for the brand message to be told in the language of that creator. In that short attention span, the creator will engage. The creator is engaging through reels. The creator is engaging through stories. The creator is not making 30-second ads, right? Even if the creator is making long-form content, it's the language of the creator. And that's what you'll have to weave yourself in and allow for many voices. And we have many examples. I mean, I won't go deep into it. I mean, practically, this is a truth of consumer marketing today that every single brand has woken up to. I think the crux of the question is how? What are the creative principles? What's the safety rails that will ensure the brand doesn't get hurt? Of course, brands have spent millions and millions and billions of dollars over the years. Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz, Lux, Maggie. These are brands which have deep emotional connections built over decades. Diageo, I mean, come on. You guys make the world's best brands, lifestyle brands. You've invested so much, you don't want to risk your brand. So you'll have to find that balance, test and learn, find the right creators. We are enabling even that. Through our creator marketplace tool, we are enabling discovery of the creators who suit your brand, who have done work related to your brand or to your brand audience. You can talk to them, you can pitch to them, they can pitch back to you. We are solving the problem of discovery of creators as well. And then there are very deep creative principles, which I will talk about. I won't touch upon the fluid journeys. I think Ruchi already did so, but I mean, one of our treasured partners is Mondelez. I don't know if somebody from Mondelez is in the room, but they are pretty deeply entrenched into how to use fluid journeys and multiple surfaces to talk to audiences all across and leverage the power of AI. And I certainly feel they're one of the most sophisticated CPG advertisers who are in the fray today, and the results on their brands show that. But moving on to creative, this is what we call raising the creative ceiling. So raise the floor so that you raise the ceiling. And why do you need to do this? Because this is what gets attention. Notice the brands up there. These are all brands that used to be at one time talking to audiences through long form, horizontal, 30-second TVC format. Tanishq is a brand that makes the most gorgeous jewelry commercials, which last a minute or 2 minutes, because they really delve in the beauty of their jewelry and the emotional payoff of that jewelry on families and on the audience. Even they have started launching their festive campaigns. In fact, the creative you see on the screen right now is their 2023 Diwali campaign going live with Reels first. And they don't do it because there's some gut instinct here. They've done it after rigorous testing on their brand and their store footfalls. They see difference in their store footfalls. They see the impact of their audiences having moved to Reels. So there are many examples, and I mean, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to some of the creative principles. But before that, all our measurement science from across the world, all our lift studies, all third-party studies, when you mash them up, tell us that creative is half the sales outcome. Simple equation, remember that. If it is any lesser, means our creative is not doing the job. If it's any more, maybe we're not measuring right. So creative is half the sales outcome. Media and measurement is the other half of the sales outcome. It's that simple an equation. I think this is, I mean, I could write a long book on just these two lines. So if I move on to creative, we did this global study between Kantar and Creative X. Nobody needs an introduction of Kantar. They're sitting in the room. Creative X is one of the finest creative effectiveness measurement teams in the world. They teamed up to analyze over 13,000 creatives, 5 countries, 1,200 campaigns, some 13 billion impressions, so on and so forth, like exhaustive, more exhaustive than ever. And they came up with very, very simple 4 creative effectiveness levers in the short form world that can drive high effectiveness. So they correlated 20 different effectiveness, creative levers to effectiveness on those campaigns. And then they did the right regression analysis and multivariate analysis to come back with what are those 4 big themes. These are those 4 themes. And none of them seem mighty new to you, right? Human connection, meaning the human at the center in that 3 seconds. Integrating brand and product. Every brand manager here, myself included, was taught this on day 1. You've got to ensure brand and product are woven into the storyline. Visual dynamism, animation, supers, fast cuts, loud colors, stand out, and a distinctive atmosphere. Meaning, what are your distinct brand assets? Leverage that. Coca-Cola red, you don't have to say Coca-Cola, you'll know red. Nike swoosh, you don't have to say Nike swoosh, just do it, we'll say it loud and clear. How do you leverage those distinct brand assets to drive creative effectiveness? I kid you not, in this massive global analysis, 2/3 or more of all creators did not leverage this. It's shocking. These are principles known to every single brand team in the world. We spend months and weeks analyzing our scripts. But when it comes to leveraging new creative formats like Reels, we forget these basics, right? And this is what the new measurement science of today and CMI of today needs to start measuring, which is effectiveness in the new creative landscape. So again, these are, I mean, there are many examples. Again, in interest of time, I can't delve too deep into this. We can take this up one-on-one with clients, but we have a fairly deep understanding of the kind of creative principles that go towards driving effectiveness in the world of short form video and storytelling. And again, there are brands who are in India, many of them who are realizing them, this beauty brands, fashion brands, tech brands, even FMCG brands. I mean, Durex is frankly a brand from the house of Reckitt. If they can do it, so can many others. Reckitt is one of the most rigorous traditional consumer goods company in the world, but yet they get the fact that they need to change creatively, they need to change where they're telling the story. Yeah, sorry for that long-winded response, but I hope I could give a sense of what creators and creative mean in the world of short form attention spans now.
No, super Saugato. I wanted to do one double click. I remember when we were discussing outside, or maybe before in the earlier conference. Talk about short term versus long term. We'll talk about it from an ROI point of view, but from a creative point of view, I wanted to touch point performance marketing versus brand building, and creative in the context of performance versus brand building.
Yeah, I know this. There is this ongoing debate at all times, and I find it very strange. I have seen it in the structures of companies. There is a performance marketing team, there's a brand marketing team. Frankly, all marketing is marketing. All marketing is being seen by the consumers. Consumers are not receiving a creative as performance marketing. This is meant to make me buy, or this is meant to make me download an app, versus, oh, this is meant to just make me aware of the proposition or discover a new feature about the brand. Consumers like yourself receive thousands of stimulus points every single day. Your minds are conditioned to filter out 95% of them. That's the reality. So I would urge the creative and the brand ecosystem to not think of life as firstly performance marketing, brand marketing. Just build for all formats, all occasions. Ensure your structures internally adhere to that. If you start dividing your structures by performance and by brand, and then you have different KRAs, you don't stitch up those KRAs in a unified way, you're going to have somebody driving app installs and website conversions with only discounts, offers, go to your nearest store, creatives. And that's why you'll have 2/3 of your creatives not having any of those creative principles. And then you'll be wondering, why am I reaching 200 million audiences and yet my brand measures are not moving up? But I'm constantly getting, lowering ROAS over time because I'm saturating my audiences only with a certain type of creative, right? So that is our, stated take on how to see the world across the full funnel and across the non-linear funnel.
Nice, super build. I'll use another language, which is, don't think silos. I mean, it's one brand and it's everybody's chasing the same thing. I had a really beautiful insight in one of these conversations. I was talking about hacking. And what this person told me is the reason why hackers are successful is against companies and brands is because hackers don't think in silos. They think interconnected. And organizations work in silos. And therefore, the hackers get the better of organizations. So exactly, don't think...
I can give you an example. It's a live example of a very successful D2C brand, beauty personal care D2C brand. Can't say more, but very successful. One of the, leading successors of today. And they were going down this path of, and they're very measurement heavy. They are probably the most sophisticated measurement team I've met as far as my meta career is concerned. They use incrementality every day to make a decision on where to scale up. So incrementality basically being you add a new variable and you see what is the incremental. So if you add stories, or if you add Advantage Plus, or if you add partnership ads, or if you add collab ads, or if you add a new geography, or if you change something, what is the incremental difference in your outcomes? They use some incrementality multipliers to actually allocate media spends on a week by week, month by month basis. They're that sophisticated. However, they have divided their team into performance marketing and brand marketing, and not with unified goals. That led to a point where they were saturating their entire audience with performance marketing, and they were not measuring the impact of the brand marketing actually on performance marketing, the halo that it creates. Now they've unified those KRAs and they're seeing much better outcomes. So they've also gone that way,
In fact, if I could just build to what Saugato was saying, we are also seeing purchase decisions being made across channels today. So consumer journey is not getting completed on the platform, they are discovering the brand, but omni-channel is a reality. And unless you have an integrated play, you cannot measure cross-channel impact. So it's even more critical going back to the point on fluid journeys, because consumer decisions of purchase is also happening across platforms.
Super point. Let me come to you, Vikram, on that note. Fluid journeys, my God, this audience is all about measurement and evaluation. How do you measure ROI for brands and businesses in this fluid, crazy, everything happening all at the same time kind of journey?
Yeah. There's a lot of rich discussion happening, and even earlier in the day, there's so much discussion around changing audiences, advent of AI, measuring outcomes, moving away from perceived responses to actual outcomes. A bit of a trivia, thanks for the introduction someone made. But it all started for me here in Mumbai when I was actually in the first team which set up the TV panel in IMRB, which is now Kantar. And so that was a world when we were measuring outputs, just metrics, which were at that time cutting edge. But it was far away from a world where we are now, which is being able to measure real outcomes. So before I start, I think the one thing which I, irrespective of what trends we see, and it's a fast developing world, is that there are many organizations which are just stuck in inertia, right? So what do we measure? Where do we start? Are we making the right decision? Should we set up a separate team which is separated from everything else in order to just to safeguard our main business so that we can experiment? And so first is an organizational level. I would say that just embark on measurement, because without measurement, you really can't make any informed decisions on what really can make a big impact in your business. And now it's even more so than before with AI coming. We all have different interpretations of AI and all of that. But basically anything new, and you need to be the first to try. And so this is, I think, based on a study which was done in India by BCG, which says that the upper limit of what impact, incremental impact you can get by measuring, whether it's your top line, whether it's your profitability, whether it's your sales outcomes, is a big delta. And so the first thing which everyone in marketers and their partners in the room is, please measure every single cent you spend in order for you to have much more evidence of what really works and for you to learn. Test and learn is something we heard also. And a lot of again, I've seen marketers who have been in this test and learn culture generally move faster than those who don't. And in fact, in many cases, the difference between those traditional companies and whether you call hackers or digital first sort of companies. So fast forward to the 90s, when I started, or the early 2000s is when digital marketing happened. It was the exciting part when you could actually start getting real data. So cookies happened, and last click was the sort of first thing which we started to look at. I call it the first age of the last click, right? Where still many marketers believe in it, and in many cases it still works. But that was when a lot of decisions started to be made with more informed idea of what is driving true outcomes. Then, clearly after a while, when industry matured, you know that this is not enough, and you move into the multi-touch space. You remember the days of double click? I actually, my own thesis was based on some of the data which you got in the multi-touch environment. Again, while the excitement was there that you could potentially measure all cross-media and all intra-media and as well as cross-media, but we were ignoring the fact that you couldn't measure offline, you couldn't measure brand, and there's a huge chunk of media investments or marketing investments which were still sort of, you had left that behind. And clearly there was a problem there. Yeah. Fortunately, GDPR happened and we had to move forward, right? And now we are in this world where we have kind of gone back to some of the more traditional metrics. So go back to some of the TV metrics, reach and so on. Go back to the MMMs of the world. People are written off MMMs, and now they made a massive comeback. And I would say that even some of the digital first companies, I know there's a ride sharing firm in a very large one in many parts of Asia, which has actually embarked on MMM as a way to inform their decisions on digital, right? And so there's been a lot of innovation in that space, and I call it the multimodal toolkit, which is a combination of different measurement methodologies which you have to use in a judicious manner and answer all of these questions, whether it's food journeys, changing consumer trends, and so on. What this really means is there is not ever going to be a place where you have one source of truth or one way of doing things. It has to be an ensemble of methodologies which you have to use in your organization. And so on one hand, there's attribution, which a lot of your digital departments, if you still have them, would be running. And that probably still works within media, if you're trying to understand within a medium you're selecting. To the other end of the spectrum, where you're looking at all marketing variables, where MMM now, with its lot of innovation happening in that space, allows you to do that in a much more agile way. And at the apex, I would, and this is something which I guess is very close to us in Meta, is doing experimentation. Saugato talked about the value incrementality. I think that causal impact which you can get through a really good experiment is something you cannot ignore. Our platform provides that ability to do a very high quality experiment, but I'm sure there are many other platforms which do that. But feeding that experimental data into calibrating or informing attribution as well as MMM, and making the entire ecosystem work in a much more cohesive way is in a way the best practice we all are trying to strive for. I don't think any organization probably has cracked it fully, but I would dare say that the ones who have less of a legacy and coming from a clean place, I think they are generally at the forefront. I can give an example which from a very different space, another market, and these are sort of medium advertisers. So again, a bit of context of my role. Scaling, everyone was wondering what does global scaling mean. This is actually a mid-tier markets, mid-tier clients, not the large advertisers who are spending a few 100,000 or a few million a year. So by no means large advertisers. A lot of them are digital first businesses. And they've had obviously the benefit of setting up everything in a very different manner. As they started to optimize and max out digital, they started to then move into the offline space and saying, hey, I maxed out DR. How do I build brand? How do I get the next growth? And they realized that in order for them to break out of the commodity mold, they have to build brand equity and being able to prove that it actually works. And so the questions they get asked is, how do I know that building brand will actually drive impact? So a question which traditional marketers always had, these guys are sort of coming the other way. And so we have started to look at some of that very interesting insights which we have seen. Short-term impact in a very large-scale study we did showed only 40% value, but actually it's the long-term impact which showed 60% of the value. And digital is driving a large part of it, but again, then it also gives you, imagine the digital players trying to do TV advertising and they've started to see value in that. So these are some of the very interesting trends we have seen. I would like to leave it with this one sort of pyramid chart to where do I sort of map all these different measurement techniques, as you are sort of thinking of your organization silos and ways to make decisions, I think some methodologies or some approaches work in a day-to-day operational sort of, providing those inputs. And many others play a part in the more strategic sort of role. And so it is not about measurement only for big strategic decisions, it's also for an ongoing. But the key is, please start measuring. Please start measuring outcomes. Even if you want to use AI tools, do experiments. You can, I think somebody shared about an AI report versus a manual report. You can actually do an AI plan versus a manual plan, and you can actually figure out which is working better. And it's not every time AI will win. AI also needs guidance and needs ways to point things which is not able to capture in the data it has. So that's sort of opening your mind and to unlock some of these opportunities is what I would like to leave you with.
Thanks a lot for that, Vikram. I'm gonna do a brave attempt of summarizing one message from each of you, and then I'm gonna do an out of scope question because we have just about a minute and a half left. and see where that goes. It just struck me as you were talking through your journeys. It's a more personal question about your experience. But let me attempt the summary. Ruchi, from you, I think one takeaway for everybody from what I heard was non-fluid journeys. It's an infinity loop. Make sure that you're speaking to the entire loop at the same time and not thinking linear. So fluid journeys is your big point. Saugato, your big point is about creation is happening there. We have to stop thinking in traditional means, just create across that fluid loop and lose a little bit of control and co-create with collaborators and content creators. That's kind of your one big takeaway. Feel free to add if I'm missing a nugget. And I think, Vikram, from you, I think what I heard loud and clear again and again was just start measuring. The rest will follow. Just start. Stop thinking, just start measuring. Go multimodal, but start measuring, and the rest will follow. And let the machine do what they do best so that the humans can focus on what they do best. Yeah, does that kind of a one-line summary? Anything I missed that you want to leave
No,
behind?
absolutely. And just 50% of all outcomes is creative. Just never forget that.
That's a good one.
So focus all your energies on measuring creative and creative effectiveness. You get that right, the rest will follow.
Super. Thanks for that, Bill. One quick line, almost out of time. All of you have transitioned to the world of Meta from a past life. One line on your big kind of aha, personally, as you've transitioned from the outside of Meta to inside of Meta, or however you want to talk your journey. One big aha for yourself personally.
Yeah, maybe I can talk about it. Started in the CPG space where data was a challenge because it was offline world. It still remains to some extent. Coming to Meta, I was overwhelmed with data. And I think the database decision making, which we can do in the era of digital, is just like overwhelming for me. So yeah, that's your big one.
Vikram, the big one for you?
Yeah, as much as I'm extolling the value of measuring on Meta, it truly is a measurement expert's dream come true, the quality of experiments you can do, which I wasn't aware before joining Meta.
It shows in your face when you talk about it like that, Vikram. Great to see that. Saugato, your big aha.
I mean, I worked with Unilever, I worked with some very organizations that have had very different impact on the lives of consumers. But I have to say that the impact I see of Meta's products in consumers' lives it genuinely feels like a privilege to be working for a brand or for an organization where so much of economic livelihoods and businesses and connections and societal impact is built here. It's staggering. So I find that to be a true honor just to be here. That's an aha for me.
Super, Saugato. Super responses. This just suddenly struck me. I think great responses. Love the last few responses. I don't think we have time for any questions, so we're probably going to wrap this session up. Thank you once again for an amazing session and great insights. And thank you to the audience for the great listening. Thank you.